Good evening. My name is Tim Farnham, and I am the director of the Miller-Worley Center for the Environment here at Mount Holyoke College. I'd like to welcome everyone to this, our second event in our Environmental Writers Series. And I'll begin by acknowledging and thanking our co-sponsors, the Environmental Studies Department here at Mount Holyoke, and especially the Odyssey Bookshop, our very own independently owned bookstore right here in South Hadley. Joan Grenier and her team at the Odyssey do a fabulous job in every way, and that includes bringing in authors to speak to the community. They undoubtedly make Mount Holyoke and the whole Pioneer Valley a much richer place. Thank you so very much. As I mentioned, this is our second event. Our third will be on Monday, November 7th, and it will be Captain Charles Moore reading from and discussing his book, Plastic Ocean, How a Sea Captain's Chance Discovery Launched a Determined Quest to Save the Oceans. Moore is one of the first to identify the huge jar of plastic trash in the middle of the North Pacific, and he will be here in Gamble to tell us his story. Also on November 10th, distinguished environmentalist Gus Speth will be presenting the annual Miller-Worley Environmental Leadership Lecture here in Gamble Auditorium. Speth has a long and impressive resume, including the founder of the Natural Resources Defense Council, the chief environmental advisor to Jimmy Carter, and administrator of the United Nations Development Program. His talk is entitled American Prospect, Decline, and Rebirth, and promises to be both provocative and inspiring. Some special thank yous tonight to Lorette Savoy in Environmental Studies and her class, which is here. Our student volunteers, Awo Agophan, Olivia Dirks, Paula Mugnani, and Yiting Wang. And also to Ruby Maddox, our tireless and amazing program coordinator at the Miller-Worley Center for the Environment. And as always, a huge thank you to our gracious donors, Leslie Miller and Richard Worley, whose generosity makes events like this possible. Frances Moore Lappe is the author of 18 books, including the classic Diet for a Small Planet. She is the co-founder of 3 organizations, including Food First, the Institute for Food and Development Policy, and more recently, the Small Planet Institute, a collaborative network for research and popular education seeking to bring democracy to life, which she leads with her daughter, Anna Lappe. Frances and her daughter have also co-founded the Small Planet Fund, which channels resources to democratic social movements worldwide. Frances appears frequently as a public speaker and on radio and is a regular contributor to Huffington Post and Alternet. Her most recent work, released by Nation Books in September 2011, is EcoMind, Changing the Way We Think to Create the World We Want. Jane Goodall called the book powerful and inspiring. EcoMind will open your eyes and change your thinking. I want everyone to read it, she said. Other recent books include Getting a Grip, Clarity, Creativity, and Courage in a World Gone Mad, and Getting a Grip 2, Clarity, Creativity, and Courage for the World We Really Want. Hope's Edge, that's written with Anna Lappe. Democracy's Edge, and You Have the Power, Choosing Courage in a Culture of Fear. Lappe's books have been translated into 15 languages and are used widely in university courses, and her influence is so great that it is certainly impossible to measure. We are very happy to have her here tonight, Frances Moore Lappe.
Thank you so very much. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Odyssey Bookstore. Thank all of you, and especially the students who I had the pleasure of meeting via Skype just a few days ago, and just really fired me up. So thank you for being here tonight. I would like to begin my talk tonight with the words of D. Hock in his book, Birth of the Chaotic Age. D. Hock says, "It is far too late, and things are far too bad for pessimism." Yes, and that's the spirit of EcoMind, and that's the spirit I try to maintain when I get up in the morning. So I though would like to begin with where the journey that brought me here on this kind of treacherous drive from Boston actually began 40 years ago. It began when I sat at the UC Berkeley Agricultural Library as a 20-something with this intuition that, oh, food is so basic. Everybody has to eat. And if people aren't eating, if millions aren't eating, what is more important than that? And if I could just understand why is there hunger in the world, that would begin to unlock the mysteries of economics and politics. So, the books like Paul Ehrlich's Population Bomb Had Exploded, the experts were telling us that we'd run out of food, and I wanted to know, is that true? Is it true? So I sat there almost literally sort of putting two and two together. And very soon in this process, I learned that, no, there's more than enough food for all of us. It was true then. It's even more true today. Worse, I learned that we're actively creating the scarcity that we say we fear. So my question grew, why hunger? Then why hunger in a world of plenty? And then why would such bright species do such a thing? And then it grew and grew over the decades to the question that motivates my life in this new book, EcoMind. It is the question, why are we together creating a world that we as individuals would never choose? Because I know, and I know you know, no one who gets up in the morning, turns off the alarm and says, yes, I want another child to die today of hunger. Or says, yeah, my goal is to make sure the planet gets hotter and species are lost forever. I don't think that's going on. So that seems like a pretty big question. Why are we together creating a world that not only would we not choose, but actually violates our common sense and our deepest sensibilities as human beings? So that really is the question. And over the decades, I've had a lot of help from a lot of great thinkers. And finally it began to dawn on me, certainly one particular thinker, Erich Fromm, who wrote the book, The Anatomy of Human Destructiveness. And that's when it really began to click, that if we think about how we got into the place we are, that we have to look at what's unique about the human species. And one of the things is how we think, how we see. That unique quality of the human mind is that we see the world according to a mental map that we absorb in each culture. Each culture develops a way of seeing life. And literally, we can't see what's outside of our mental map. This operates like a filter. This is the way our minds work. And to make my case, I want to take you to my kitchen last Thanksgiving. I got up, really charged up, to make my favorite root vegetable dish that morning. I knew 33 people were going to be in my living room in the afternoon, so I better get busy. So I started looking for my favorite Dutch oven to cook my root vegetables, and I looked in the cupboard where I was sure that it was, and it wasn't there. So I went to the basement, and I came back up and looked at the upper shelves, and I couldn't find it, and I got so frustrated and wondered who I'd lent it to and forgotten or something. I finally gave up. And about an hour later, I turned around, and there it was, except that I had put a plant in it. So I think, hopefully you kind of get what I'm getting at here, is that I was looking for a kitchen item, right? And it's not inconspicuous. It's red, right? And I couldn't see it because I had converted into a planter simply by putting a plant in it. I had put it into another frame. I couldn't see it from the kitchen frame. So this is our challenge. And this aspect of our mentality, the way we see through these filters, is perfectly fine. If the dominant way we see, if the mental map that we absorb is life-serving. But my thesis with you tonight is that the map that we absorb unconsciously in our culture is fundamentally life-denying. And that explains a lot about why we are in the mess we're in. And the challenge then is very clear. Is it possible for us to begin to surface, to acknowledge the dominant map that is taking us down, and to begin to shape a more life-serving mental map, one that is aligned with all we know about science, about nature and human nature? That's the challenge. So what is this dominant map? Well, I think that it certainly carries the assumption that you and I are all separate from one another. We're separate from nature. We're just these distinct entities, often in competitive struggle. And at the very root of that separation